They said I was losing my mind. That's what my own daughter told the doctors. She smiled sweetly in front of me, then whispered to them when she thought I couldn't hear. Dad's confused all the time, she said. He forgets things. He wanders around at night. I'm scared he might hurt himself. Lie after lie, sliding from her lips like poison. And I sat there in that hospital bed, listening, knowing exactly what she was doing, trying to bury me alive while I was still breathing. The fluorescent lights above buzzed like angry bees. The air smelled of bleach and cold metal. My body ached, but my mind was sharper than it had been in years. I wasn't confused. I wasn't sick. I was a 74-year-old man who'd worked 40 years at the steel plant, raised a family, paid for college, mortgages, weddings, and now I was being treated like a senile old fool who couldn't tie his own shoes. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments where you're watching from. My daughter, Claire, used to run into my arms when she was little. She'd sit on my shoulders, pulling my hair like reins, laughing so hard she could barely breathe. I gave her everything. And now, she wanted me locked in a nursing home, so she and her husband could manage my affairs, which meant draining every cent I had left. I saw the way the doctor shifted uncomfortably when she spoke. He looked at me with those cautious eyes doctors use when they don't want to contradict a relative. But then his gaze held mine for just a second too long, and I realized something. He didn't believe her. See, Dr. Harris wasn't just any doctor. 30 years ago, before he had gray at his temples, he was a fresh-faced army medic in my unit overseas. We'd patched each other up after firefights, slept under the same ripped canvas, shared smokes in foxholes while the world fell apart around us. He knew me. He knew what kind of man I was. And he sure as hell knew I wasn't losing my mind. That night, while Claire thought I was asleep, I heard them whispering again outside the door. Her and her husband, Mark. If we get him declared incompetent, she said, her voice sharp as broken glass, we'll have power of attorney. Dad's accounts, the house, the pension, it'll all be under our control. Mark's tone was casual, cold. The sooner the better. He's stubborn. If we wait too long, he might spend more of it. Or change his will. Their footsteps faded down the hall, leaving me alone with the hum of machines and the rage boiling in my chest. I stared at the ceiling, fists clenching under the blanket. They thought they could sign me away like a broken car title. They thought I'd go quietly into some nursing home, drugged up and forgotten, while they cashed out everything I'd worked for. They didn't know Dr. Harris had slipped me a note earlier that day, folded tight and hidden under my water cup. I know what they're trying to do. Don't worry. I've got your back. The letters shook in my hand when I read them. Not from weakness. From something stronger. From the fire building in my chest. For the first time in weeks, I smiled. Because if Claire and Mark wanted a game, I was ready to play. And they were about to learn something they'd forgotten a long time ago. I'm not weak. I'm not confused. And I never, ever lose a fight. The next morning, Claire arrived with that fake smile glued to her face, carrying a paper bag of muffins she'd probably picked up at the gas station. She set them on the little table by my bed like she was the perfect daughter. Morning, Dad, she said, her voice syrupy. I thought you might like these. Blueberry, your favorite. I looked her straight in the eye. You remembered, I said flatly. Amazing, considering I'm supposed to forget everything. Her smile wavered for half a second, then came back. Oh, Dad, don't start. You know we just want what's best for you. I didn't answer. I just broke the muffin in half and let the crumbs fall onto the plate. I wanted her to feel the silence pressing in. Later that day, Dr. Harris came in for his rounds. He pulled the curtain around my bed and lowered his voice. They're already trying to push paperwork through, he said. Claire told the social worker you've been confused, repeating yourself, forgetting dates. I clenched my jaw, and they bought it. Not entirely. I asked her to provide proof. She couldn't, but she's persistent. You need to be ready. I leaned closer. Then let's give her all the rope she needs to hang herself. That night, I pretended to be groggy. I asked Claire what day it was, acted like I didn't remember the nurse's name, even repeated the same story about an old fishing trip twice in 1 hour. I could see the satisfaction in her eyes, the way she glanced at Mark like she'd just won a prize. What she didn't see was the small recorder Dr. Harris had slipped me, tucked under my blanket, catching every smug word she whispered to him when she thought I was out of it. He's worse today, she said. Barely knows where he is. I'm scared he might wander off if we don't keep him somewhere secure. Mark chuckled. One step closer. Their voices dripped with greed. And now, I had it on tape. The next step was to push harder, see how far they'd go. So the following afternoon, when Claire came back, I asked her a question with innocent eyes. Sweetheart, what happens if I can't manage the house anymore? She pounced like a hawk. Oh, Dad, you don't need to worry about that. Mark and I already talked about it. We could sell the house for you, move you somewhere safe, and make sure all your money is handled properly. Handled properly, I repeated, staring at her. Yes, she said quickly. We'd manage everything for you. You wouldn't have to lift a finger. Mark chimed in. You should think about signing power of attorney, Henry. That way, if you get worse, we can step in right away. No delays, no court battles. I forced my hand to tremble a little as I reached for the water cup. Maybe you're right, I said softly. Maybe it's time. Claire's eyes lit up, bright and greedy. We'll bring the papers tomorrow, she said. After they left, I stared out the window at the parking lot lights. My blood was hot, but my mind was ice. They thought I was caving in. They thought the old man was finally beaten down. What they didn't know was that Dr. Harris had already arranged a meeting for me, a quiet talk with a lawyer who specialized in elder abuse cases. He was coming tomorrow, disguised as a hospital patient advocate. And while Claire and Mark thought they were getting my signature, what they were really getting was something else entirely. A signed statement. A recording. A trap snapping shut. I lay back against the pillow, listening to the machines beep around me. Let them come with their papers. Let them think they've won. I was going to watch the greed in their eyes turn to fear. And when it happened, I'd savor every second. The next day the sun came through the blinds in hard white stripes. The hospital hallway smelled of coffee and disinfectant, but under that was something else, the stink of greed, thick as smoke. I knew they'd be here soon. I sat propped up in bed, the recorder tucked where no one could see, the paperwork folded in the drawer beside me. My hands were steady, though I made them tremble just enough when the nurse came in, so the act looked convincing. At 2 o'clock sharp, Claire and Mark walked in like lawyers marching into court. She carried a folder. He carried that smug look he always wore when he thought he had the upper hand. Dad, Claire said sweetly, how are you feeling today? Foggy, I muttered. Hard to remember things. She shot Mark a quick glance, like she'd just won a hand of poker. Then she pulled the papers from the folder and set them on the rolling table by my bed. These will make things easier for you, she said. It's just power of attorney. Nothing scary. It means if you get confused again, we can handle the bills, the house, all of it. You won't have to worry. Mark slid a pen across to me. Just a signature, Henry. Nice and simple. I picked up the pen with shaky fingers, stared at the lines of text. I even squinted like the letters were swimming. Then I said, wouldn't want to make a mistake. Maybe someone should explain it, real clear. Claire leaned in, her perfume sharp, her smile brittle. It just gives us permission to act in your best interest. That's all. I nodded slowly. In my best interest. Yes, she pressed. We'll protect everything you've worked for. You can trust us. I let the silence hang. Then I signed. One quick stroke of the pen, sliding the paper back to her with a shaky hand. Her smile widened, triumph shining in her eyes. She thought she'd won. She thought the fortune was hers. Thank you, Dad, she whispered, kissing my forehead. You won't regret this. But she didn't notice the second page under her folder. The one I'd signed half an hour earlier with Dr. Harris and my lawyer present. The affidavit stating that any documents signed under pressure in that hospital room were invalid, and that I'd been coached to pretend confusion to expose coercion. Her signature victory was nothing but a trap. When they left, giddy and whispering, I watched them disappear down the hall. I could already imagine the way they'd pop champagne that night, laughing about how easy it was to trick the old man. Meanwhile, Dr. Harris stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. They got what they wanted, he said quietly. I held up the recorder. And I got what I wanted. We played back the tape. Claire's soft lies, Mark's cold insistence, my trembling voice asking for clarity while they pushed and pushed. Every word was there, proof carved into sound. Harris nodded. This is enough to raise red flags. With your affidavit, with the recording, they're already halfway into the noose. I leaned back, my smile sharp. Not halfway, document. All the way. I'm going to let them feel safe. Let them think they own me. And then, when the time's right, I tapped the side of the recorder. We'll see how fast greed can turn into panic. That night, I barely slept, but not from worry. From anticipation. I could see it already. The look in Claire's eyes when she realized the fortune wasn't hers. The way Mark's smug grin would collapse when the truth hit him. They thought they'd buried me in weakness. What they didn't know was that I was already digging their grave. 2 days passed before Claire came back. She was glowing, almost humming with excitement. Mark strutted behind her, carrying himself like he already owned half the town. "Dad," Claire said, dropping into the chair beside my bed. "I've been thinking. Now that we have things handled, maybe it's time you moved into a facility where you can get proper care. Somewhere safe. Somewhere permanent." The way she said permanent made my skin crawl, but I kept my face slack, my voice soft. "Permanent. That sounds final." She touched my hand like she was comforting me, but her grip was firm, controlling. "It'll be for the best. You'll see." Mark chimed in. "There's a place we toured last year for my aunt. Top-notch staff, private rooms. We can transfer the house and accounts over in the meantime. Keep things simple." "Simple," I repeated. They smiled, thinking I was giving in. But what they didn't know was that Dr. Harris had already contacted Adult Protective Services. And tomorrow, a caseworker was scheduled to visit while Claire and Mark were there. That night, I could hardly stay still. The beeping machines, the humming lights, they all felt like drums leading to the showdown. I rehearsed every word in my head, every line I'd deliver when the mask finally cracked. When morning came, the trap was set. Claire walked in first, her heels clicking sharp against the linoleum. Mark followed, carrying another folder of papers. They smelled victory on the air. "Dad," she said, her voice high and sweet, "we've got great news. The care facility has a room ready for you. All you have to do is sign these forms, and you'll be settled in by the weekend." She laid the papers on my lap like a gift. But before I could answer, the door opened. A woman in a gray suit stepped in, clipboard in hand. "Good morning," she said. "I'm Ms. Keller from Adult Protective Services. I'm here to check in on Mr. Wallace's care plan." Claire froze. Mark's smile slipped. "Oh," Claire stammered. "That's unexpected. We weren't. It's routine, MS." Keller said smoothly, pulling up a chair. "I'd just like to ask a few questions." Her eyes met mine, steady and calm, and I knew Harris had briefed her. "Mr. Wallace," she said, "have you been pressured to sign any legal documents while in the hospital?" The room went silent. Claire's face tightened. Mark shifted in his seat. I let the pause drag, then said quietly, "Yes, I have." Claire gasped. "Dad? No, that's not true." But I raised my hand, cutting her off. "I have been pressured. I've been told I'm confused, that I can't manage my own affairs, that I should hand over everything I've worked for to people who say they're looking out for me." Mark leaned forward, his voice sharp. "Henry, that's not fair. We're trying to help you." I looked straight at Ms. Keller. "I have recordings, proof, and an affidavit signed in front of a lawyer. If you want it, I'll provide every word." The air in the room thickened. Claire's smile was gone now, replaced by something darker, fear. "Dad?" she whispered. "You don't know what you're saying." "Oh, I know exactly what I'm saying." I cut her off. "And soon everyone else will too." Miss Keller closed her folder. "Thank you, Mr. Wallace. That's all I needed to hear today. We'll be in touch." She left the room, her heels echoing down the hall. The door clicked shut behind her. Claire's voice cracked. "Why are you doing this? Why?" I leaned forward, my voice low and sharp. "Because you tried to bury me before I was dead. Because you treated me like a wallet with legs instead of a father. Because you thought I was too old to fight back." Mark's face was red now, his jaw tight. "You'll regret this." "No," I said, cold and clear. "You will." They stormed out, leaving the folder of papers on the floor. I watched it lie there, a worthless pile of lies, and for the first time in weeks, I felt the weight lift off my chest. But I wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. I wasn't just going to protect myself. I was going to strip away everything they thought they were getting, piece by piece, until all they had left was the taste of their own greed. They didn't come back the next day. Not Claire. Not Mark. Cowards. Instead, I got a call from Claire around noon. Her voice was tight, stretched like a wire about to snap. "Dad, about yesterday, you didn't mean all that, right? You were just upset. Miss Keller doesn't understand our family." "Our family," I repeated slowly. Funny word, coming from you. Silence. Then she tried again, softer. "We love you. We're only trying to help." I ended the call without a word. That same afternoon, Dr. Harris signed my discharge papers. "You're strong enough to go home," he said. "But be careful. They won't stop." "I don't plan to stop either," I told him. 2 hours later, I stepped back into my house. The air smelled stale, like dust and neglect, but it was mine. The old recliner was still in the corner, the clock still ticking on the wall, the photographs still lined up on the mantel. My life. My history. The very things Claire wanted to erase. I sat down at the kitchen table and pulled out the manila envelope my lawyer had given me. Inside were fresh documents, a new will, a living trust, power of attorney papers naming no one in my family. Every cent, every asset would be locked away where Claire and Mark couldn't touch it. But I wasn't finished. I wanted them to see it, to feel it. That evening, I called Claire. She answered on the second ring, her voice falsely bright. "Dad, how are you feeling?" "Stronger," I said. "Strong enough to handle my affairs." There was a pause. "Of course, but maybe you shouldn't rush into anything." "I already did," I said. "Met with a lawyer this morning. All new paperwork is signed and sealed." Her voice cracked. "What kind of paperwork?" "The kind that makes sure greedy hands never get near my accounts again." A sharp inhale, then silence. Finally, she muttered, "You're making a mistake." "No," I said flatly. "I made a mistake raising a daughter who'd rather see me locked away than treated with respect." I hung up before she could answer. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next day, I went further. I pulled out the recorder and copied every file onto a flash drive. The whispers, the lies, Mark's talk of rushing things before I changed my will. I labeled the folder, Evidence, Wallace Case. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments where you're watching from. Then I drove downtown to the bank. The manager, a kind woman named Mrs. Delgado, sat with me in her office. I opened a new safe deposit box, tucked the flash drive inside, along with the signed affidavit. "If anyone asks about me," I told her, "you never saw me here." She smiled knowingly. "Don't worry, Mr. Wallace. Your secrets are safe." By the time I walked back out into the bright afternoon sun, I felt untouchable. Claire and Mark thought they were closing in, but really they were drifting straight into my net. That weekend, Claire showed up at my door. No warning, no call. She was dressed too neatly, like she was going to Sunday service. But her eyes gave her away. "Dad," she said softly, "can we talk?" I stepped aside and let her in. She walked through the house slowly, looking at the photographs, the old furniture, the kitchen where her mother used to bake pies. "I don't want to fight anymore," she whispered. "I just want us to be a family." I studied her face. For a moment, I almost believed her. But then I remembered the tape. Her voice telling Mark's mother, "We just have to pretend until he trusts us." Family. She didn't even know the meaning of the word. Still, I played along. "Family," I said, sitting down at the table. "Then be honest with me. Why did you try to put me in a home?" She blinked, her mask slipping for half a second. "We thought you needed help." "Help," I repeated. "Or control." Her jaw tightened. "Dad, please. Don't do this." "Don't do what?" I snapped. "Don't protect myself? Don't stop you from stealing everything I worked for? Don't tell the truth?" Her hands shook as she gripped the edge of the table. "You don't understand." Mark said. "Exactly," I cut her off. Mark said, "And you followed. You betrayed me because it was easier than saying no to him." She went pale. Then she stood up fast, grabbing her purse. "This isn't over," she hissed. "No," I said calmly. "It isn't. Not for you." The door slammed behind her. I sat alone at the kitchen table, the house quiet around me. My pulse was steady, my mind clear. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't the one on defense anymore. Now it was my turn to attack. It started with a letter. Not to Claire. Not to Mark. To their bank. I'd given the branch manager a copy of my affidavit, the recording transcripts, and a statement from Dr. Harris confirming I was of sound mind. By the time Claire and Mark tried to move money or leverage my assets, the bank flagged their names with big red warnings. Suspected financial exploitation, elder abuse investigation pending. 2 days later, Mark called me. His voice, usually smug and smooth, now had an edge of panic. "What the hell did you do, Henry? My accounts are frozen. The bank's asking questions." I let him rant for 30 seconds, then said, "Actions have consequences." And I hung up. Next, I called MS. Keller at Adult Protective Services. She already had the recorder files and was drafting her report. This isn't just suspicion anymore, she told me. We've got solid evidence of coercion. They're in real trouble. Good, I said. But I want more than trouble. I want the truth in the open. She hesitated. Are you sure, Mr. Wallace? These reports become public record. That's the point, I told her. By the weekend, word was spreading. Small towns talk fast. The whispers began. Claire and Mark trying to shove her father into a nursing home. Papers shoved under his nose. Money at stake. People at her office started looking at her differently. Parents at the PDA stepped back. Neighbors glanced, murmured. I wasn't done. On Monday, I walked into the local VFW hall. Men I'd known for decades. Men who'd bled and sweated beside me. Sat playing cards and drinking coffee. I told them everything. I didn't spare a detail. Claire's lies to the doctors, Mark's obsession with power of attorney, the way they'd plotted to dump me in a home and drain me dry. By the time I finished, the room was silent. Then Joe McMillan, a man who'd fought in Nam and never minced words, slammed his hand on the table. Disgusting. Using a father like that. She doesn't deserve your name, Henry. The others nodded, faces tight with anger. And I knew it. The story was already leaving that hall, carried on every tongue in town. That night, Claire showed up at my house again. This time she didn't even bother to knock. She barged in, her face flushed, eyes wild. What are you doing to us? She hissed. People are talking. Mark's firm is threatening to fire him. My boss pulled me aside today and asked if the rumors are true. I stayed seated in my recliner, calm as stone. Good. Maybe now you'll understand what it feels like when people treat you like dirt. Her voice cracked. You're destroying our lives. No, I said coldly. You destroyed them yourself. I'm just showing everyone the truth. She paced the room, wringing her hands. Dad, please. We can fix this. Just stop. Take it all back. I leaned forward, my voice sharp. Fix this. You wanted me locked away. You wanted my money in your pocket before I was even in the ground. That's not something you fix. That's who you are. She froze, tears spilling down her cheeks. For a moment, I almost saw the little girl who used to run into my arms. But then she whispered, You'll regret this. You can't fight us forever. I stood up, towering over her, my hands steady. Watch me. She left, slamming the door so hard the frames rattled. But I didn't feel empty anymore. I felt alive. Every step they took, every lie they told, was now working against them. The next day, Miss Keller called. We've escalated the case, she said. Law enforcement's reviewing the evidence. And Henry, they're not just looking at elder abuse anymore. They're looking at fraud. Fraud. That word rang in my ears like church bells. It meant handcuffs. It meant trials. It meant the greedy little empire Claire and Mark thought they were building was about to crumble into dust. I hung up and poured myself a cup of coffee. The steam rose in the quiet kitchen, sunlight falling through the blinds in golden stripes. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel heavy. It felt strong. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning. I hadn't just taken away their money. I'd taken away their reputation. And now, I was going to take away their future. The sheriff's car pulled up 2 houses down on Tuesday morning. I watched from my window as 2 deputies stepped out, crossed the street, and rang Claire's doorbell. It didn't take long. 15 minutes later, Mark was in handcuffs, red-faced and shouting. Claire stood on the porch, pale as a ghost, trying to explain, trying to smile, trying to pretend it was all a mistake. But the neighbors saw. The whispers that had been circling now had proof. When they drove away, I sipped my coffee and let the warmth spread through my chest. By evening, Claire was on my doorstep. No makeup, eyes swollen from crying, her voice shaking. Dad, please. You don't understand. They think Mark forged documents. They think he tried to move money behind your back. He could lose everything. I stared at her. He already lost everything. You helped him. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't know it would go this far. I just wanted security. For us. For the future. For the future, I repeated slowly. You mean for the money? She collapsed into the chair by the door, clutching her head. I don't have anyone else. You're all I have left. For the first time, I almost believed her. But then I remembered the tape. Her voice calling me sick, saying she had to pretend to enjoy my company. Those words were carved into me like scars. You made your choice, I said quietly. And now you'll live with it. She looked up, her eyes desperate. Please, Dad, if you testify against us, we're finished. Can't you just stop? Stay quiet? I leaned forward, my voice sharp as steel. You wanted me silent in a nursing home. You wanted me drugged, tucked away, forgotten. You think I'll stay quiet now? She flinched like I'd struck her. The next day, Dr. Harris came by the house. He sat at my kitchen table, his hands folded, his expression grave. They're going to push hard, he said. Mark's lawyers will claim you're confused. They'll say you don't know what you're talking about. I chuckled. Let them try. I've got tapes, affidavits, and more fight in me than they've seen in their whole lives. Harris nodded slowly. You're ready then? More than ready, I said. That night, I prepared. I opened the safe deposit box, pulled out the flash drive, the affidavit, every document I'd been saving. Spread them across the table like cards in a winning hand. Every signature, every word, every lie they'd told caught on tape. The power wasn't just in the evidence. It was in the knowledge that they'd underestimated me. 2 days later, Claire tried one last move. She came with flowers, soft apologies, a trembling voice. I miss Mom, she whispered, setting the bouquet on the table. She'd want us to stay together. She'd want forgiveness. I looked at the flowers, bright, colorful, already wilting at the edges. Just like her words. Your mother believed in forgiveness, I said. But she also believed in truth. And the truth is, you tried to sell me off like an old car. That's not something you come back from. Her lip trembled. Then what do you want from me? I stood, gathered the papers, and slid them back into the envelope. Nothing. That's the point. You and Mark wanted everything. And now you'll get nothing. She reached for my arm, but I pulled away. Dad, please. Save it for the judge, I said. The look on her face was a mix of rage and despair. She left without another word, the screen door banging behind her. That night, the house was quiet. Too quiet. I sat in my recliner, staring at the old photographs on the wall. Margaret's smile looked back at me, steady, warm. I felt her there, like she was watching, nodding in approval. Tomorrow was the hearing. Tomorrow, I would step into that courtroom and finish what they started. I poured myself a glass of water, steadying my hands. For months, they thought they could bury me. But tomorrow, I'd bury them, in truth, in evidence, in every dirty lie they'd spun. And when the gavel fell, they'd finally understand. This old man wasn't finished. Not by a long shot. The courthouse smelled of dust and old wood, the kind of place where secrets came to die. I walked in slow, came tapping against the floor, but my back was straight. My lawyer carried the folder. Inside it was everything. The recorder files, the affidavit, the bank notices, every weapon I needed. Claire and Mark were already seated at the front. Claire's face was pale, her eyes red from crying. Mark looked worse, sweaty, jaw tight, that smugness finally gone. When the judge entered, everyone rose. I stood tall, felt Margaret's presence at my side. Then it began. The prosecutor laid it all out. The coercion, the documents they shoved in front of me at the hospital, the recordings. One by one, the lies came to light. Play track 3, the prosecutor said. And there it was. Claire's voice, clear as glass. We just have to pretend until he trusts us enough to sign. Then it's all ours. Gasps filled the courtroom. Mark buried his face in his hands. Claire's lips trembled as if she could swallow the words back into her throat. But it was too late. When it was my turn, I stood. No trembling, no hesitation. I looked at the judge, then straight at Claire. I gave my life to my family. I said, my voice low but steady. 50 years of sweat at the factory, every penny saved, every sacrifice made for my daughter. And in the end, she looked at me and saw nothing but a checkbook with legs. She wanted me silenced. She wanted me gone. But I'm still here, and I won't be silenced again. The judge nodded slowly. Thank you, Mr. Wallace. That will do. The rest went fast. Fraud. Attempted financial exploitation. Coercion. The judge's gavel came down hard. Mark's bail denied. Claire released under investigation, but barred from touching any of my affairs ever again. It was over, but I wasn't finished. That evening, I walked home under the orange glow of the streetlights. The neighborhood was quiet, but I knew the news was already spreading. People would talk about how Claire tried to sell out her father, how Mark thought he could outsmart an old man. Their names would be stained forever. Back at the house, I poured myself a glass of whiskey, sat in the recliner, and stared at the old photograph of Margaret. We did it, I whispered. They thought they could bury me, but all they did was dig their own grave. The phone rang later that night. Claire's number. I let it ring until it stopped. No message. Nothing left to say. I leaned back, listening to the hum of the old refrigerator, the tick of the clock on the wall. For the first time in years, the house felt alive again, not haunted by betrayal, but filled with something sharper, something cleaner. Peace. I knew tomorrow they'd still be out there, desperate, clawing for sympathy, trying to rebuild their lives. But it wouldn't matter. Their greed had branded them, and I'd made sure the world saw it. As for me, I still had my dignity, my freedom, my future. And the last thing I said before closing my eyes, letting the night take me, was the truth carved sharper than any blade. They thought I was weak, but I was stronger than they ever imagined.